Dear friends, on behalf of Cambridge Assessment English and Cambridge University Press, I would like to welcome you to our Cambridge Week, Day 1, English Teaching at Primary Level. If you can hear me well, please put a plus in the chat box. Fantastic, so many pluses. If you have some problems during the event, no sound or no video, please reload the page. It's better to use Chrome. At the moment, I can see that some participants have unstable internet connection. The recording of the webinar will be shared in a couple of days. The certificate of attendance will be shared via email as well. Please be patient. It will be great to get your questions during the webinar. There is a special section for questions. If you have some special questions, please ask them there. This is just a reminder. Okay, great. I can see so many people now from different places, Russia, Uzbekistan, Armenia. Welcome, everybody. We will start in 1 minute. I think it's time to introduce the first presenter, Claire Barnes. Claire is Cambridge Assessment English presenter and teacher trainer. Claire, if you can hear me well, please go on air and start webcasting. I'm uploading your slides. Hi, Claire.
Ah, there I am.
Yes.
Dark is good, that's easy.
Now we can see you and we can hear you. Hi, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm getting messages to say that I have a bad connection. I might have to turn the camera off at some point.
Yes, in case you have unstable connection, you may turn off your camera. So you can see your slides and the control panel, yes?
Control panel.
Yes, with the arrows.
Oh yes, for some reason, yes, I can see that. For some reason, it's shift. There we go, yes.
Okay, great. So it's 12 already here in Moscow, so I think we can start. The floor is yours. Good luck.
The floor, now that's a thing, isn't it? Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I hope everyone can hear. So I've got one or two things to say. I'm going to be asking you to comment in the regular chat box, but because there are so many of you, if you have a question, please put that question in the special questions chat box. You see a question mark and a chat box at the top of the screen. Okay, that way the question will be recorded and we can get back to you later. Okay, right, let's see how we get on today. So we're going to be looking at your course book and how to map that to YLE content. Let me just see if I can actually get this thing to move. How do I move my slides, Julia? I think I should know this, but I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. Wow.
They must be some...
okay, right.
Yeah, it works.
I just have to be patient, is the message that I am receiving. Okay, I can be patient. That's fine. It's fine. Okay. I'm going to start with a question for you. And you can see the question on your screen. In your opinion, what makes starters, movers, and flyers different from the main suite exams for teenagers and adults. Please type your opinions in the chat box. Yeah. What does make starters, movers, and flyers different? Yeah. Okay. It's a different set of vocabulary. Pictures. Yeah, less writing because, well, you know, the age group, we expect them not to write so much. It's a question of cognitive development. Okay, that's right. Yes, all sorts of, they are meant to be entertaining. That's an interesting point. Someone said, yes, they follow the Common European Framework of Reference levels. That is very true. But then all Cambridge exams follow the Common European Framework of Reference. So that's not really very different, is it? The whole thing is designed to be child-friendly and take into account cognitive development of the children. Exactly. Okay. I now I need to turn off the camera to improve the speed, it says. So you're not going to see me. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's see if that's really makes things any better. Oh, dear, oh dear, oh dear. There we go. I'm in the wrong box. Usually, there we go. Okay. Do I hit this one or this one? Yeah, more support from examiners is allowed. Oh, Julia, which of these keys do I press? This is not good. For some reason, I cannot move my slides on. I would love to move my slides, and it's not working. There we go. It's still very, very slow. Okay, I need to take an early decision on when to move a slide. Good. Yeah, so all of those things I think you have mentioned. They're the main thing that I would like to mention is that it is designed to reward achievement. So it's not a pass-fail thing. It's basically a look how wonderful you are, how much English you can produce, and how you can use it. And I think that's important. Okay, so today we're going to be trying to figure out exactly how to compare the coursebook that we have to use with the exams content themselves. There we go. Right. Okay, and let's start instantaneously by looking at these grammar structures. Okay. You can see on the left of the screen the actual structure, on the right of the screen examples of the structure in the chat box. Can you now please just decide 2 of these things are for starters, 2 are movers, 2 are flyers, and 1 is post flyers. Any ideas there? Which of the which of the 2 structures for starters? Any ideas? Yeah, exactly. Let's is as starters. Any ideas about any of the others? What about movers? Okay. Which one is then flyers, or which ones are flyers? Okay. There's one, remember, which is post flyers, which is above flyers, or above all of the levels. Which one is that? Yeah, 1 or 2 people are saying present continuous. For in which case the present continuous? Yeah, not just the present continuous for now, but for future, exactly. And here you have it. Yeah, so I think everyone was pretty close on that. The question is, where do you find such information? And of course, that's really, really easy. The information is found very, very easily in the handbooks that you can download, and also partly in the handout that you'll be receiving later in the day. Okay, so every YLE handbook has a full list of structures set out in starters, movers, and flyers, and also a full thematical list. So if we now move on, okay, and I've got an extract, as you can see, from Spotlight 2, which I know many people, many teachers in Russia use. This is taken from the teacher's book. It tells you exactly what's in the book and where it is and so on and so forth. Yeah. So if we look at the language there, she's got blue eyes. What level do you think that is? Is that starters or movers or flyers? Yeah, most of you are saying quite rightly starters. Absolutely, well done. Okay. Let's have another go at that, shall we? Okay. Exactly. Yes, absolutely. And as we said, this is the best way to have a look. So to go to your teacher's book, usually not the student's book, but the teacher's book, generally has a full list of contents in terms of the thematic content of each unit, the list of vocabulary, and the list of structures. So all you basically need to do at the beginning of the year, as in now, this week, before you go back to school, is to look at your course book and to map it out in terms of, okay, this is a starters, this is what I need for starters, this is already what I need for movers, and so on and so forth. Yeah? We have given you in the handout a little table to help you map things out so you can see exactly where you're going. I've got another one for you. This is Spotlight 3, yeah, which again I know quite a few of the Russian schools tend to be using. Okay. And we have here more lexis or prepositions next to, in front of, behind, and so on and so forth. Yeah, the so-called prepositions of place. Starters, movers, or flyers. Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, the prepositions of place, the basic ones that you can see on your screen, are all in starters. Yeah, and it would be very, very important to make sure that your children know those ones, because otherwise they're going to be struggling. If you look at the vocabulary underneath, cupboard, mirror, fridge, sofa, cooker, glass, these words from the vocabulary lists, are they starters or movers or flyers? Cupboard, mirror, fridge, sofa, cooker, glass. Vocabulary list, someone saying, is starters, except for one word. One word is not on the starters list. Any ideas which word is not on the starters list? Yeah. People saying cooker, fridge. Yeah, somebody said fridge. Absolutely, fridge is not on the starters list. It's actually on the flyers list. So we can see that in general, you can be guided by whichever course book you're using, but you do have to check that back with the word lists and the structure lists that you will find in the handbooks, which you can download from cambridgeenglish.org very easily. Okay, so I've got another course book here, Super Minds, which is a Cambridge University Press book, but it's not a dedicated exam prep book. The dedicated exam prep is Friends something. I don't use it very much, you can see, can't you? Okay, but Super Minds I think is quite popular in some parts of the world as well. You can see here some grammar. Freddie likes, Freddie doesn't like. Yeah, and also has your town got a swimming pool? Starters, movers, or flyers? Starters. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I think that's fairly clear. Okay, so generally Superminds 2 is starters. So one would think, okay, Superminds 4, they say, is movers. Is it? What do you think? We were climbing a tree. What were they doing? Was he doing this? Yes, he was. No, he wasn't. Yeah. Prepositions also of time, in, out, on. What's that? Is that starters or movers or flyers? Yeah, prepositions of time. Some of it comes in earlier, but if you look specifically at the grammar there and things like emergencies, that's more, you'd think it should be movers. It's actually more flyers. So even with CUP books, you've got to be quite careful. You've got to be aware, okay, Superminds 3 is largely movers. Superminds 4 is already crossing that bridge into flyers, although it's not specifically designed to do so. So as we said, go to the handbook, find the vocabulary lists, find the structure lists, and map your course book to whichever level you need. So you can see, my course book covers this, and this. It does not cover that, but my children will need to be able to do that. Therefore, I must find supplementary material. Otherwise, my students will struggle when it comes to the exam. Okay. So as teachers, we have, I think, that responsibility to not blindly follow our course books and not necessarily insist on, schools will not change course books just because you're going, but I want my children to do starters. But to find out, I think we have that responsibility to check our own course book material and to see what we need to supplement, and then think about where to find that supplementary materials. Yeah. Okay. If we look at vocabulary, again, vocabulary is listed all the way through the Young Learner program. Okay, and we've got body and face now. There are 12 nouns and 1 verb at starters level for body and face. How many of them do you know? Can you write them in the chat box? There are 12 nouns and 1 verb. Which nouns do you know from the topic body and face? Which nouns? Yes, I know it's starters. Face, thank you, Anna. Okay. Okay. Okay, some more things. Okay, tail is hardly body. Well, I suppose the monkey has a tail. Yes, absolutely. Okay, fair enough. Here. Okay. Yeah, some interesting answers beginning to come in right now. Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure that chin is quite a starters word. I think that might be slightly higher level. Okay. Let's have a look. There we go. I think we had most of those, yeah? Oh, yes. So, yeah, and the verb was to smile. Very good, very good. Okay, so then obviously you need to check that the course book that you're using includes all of these words at that level. I think a lot of Russian course books tend to include very many more words, so that's possibly a question of then deciding which words to focus on, because the students are not going to be able to internalize every single word at that level, are they? Okay, but then if we think about movers, we move on slightly to movers. What other words can you add to the body and face topic at movers. Ooh, okay. Beard, yes, that's a good one. Absolutely. Exactly, hair colors. Okay. Not sure about the wrist there, I will be honest there. Yeah, things like curly, straight, and so on and so forth. I think you're absolutely correct there. Yeah. Well done. Hey, you're doing well, aren't you? Woohoo! Yeah. So you can see, in fact, I've taken this from from the course book. I think it was Superminds 3. Okay, you can see all of these words suddenly come into play, and that gives you all kinds of silly things to do with them, all kinds of games that you can play. Okay, remember the topic lists in the handbook are listed per level in general. So you've got the whole starters list alphabetically ordered, you've got the whole movers list alphabetically ordered, and the whole flyers list equally alphabetically ordered. But you can also have a combined vocabulary list which is organized in topics. So if you then go, for example, to the body and face topic on that list, you will find the starters list, the words that are added then at movers level, and then the words that are added at flyers level. So you always know, okay, my students are doing movers, I must make sure they've added straight and curly hair, for example. Yeah. Okay, super. Let's have a little test here. Let's see how you're going to do with this. Okay, so you can see there a table with lots of fun little words, all beginning with B. Can you figure out what level they would be? For example, balloon is which level? Starters, movers, flyers? What do you think? Okay, we seem to be quite convinced that's starters. What about some of the other words? Yeah. I think people seem to be suggesting that boring is a movers word. Okay. What about board, belt, big? Okay. Belt, flyers, we're saying. Apparently little younger ones don't wear belts. It's interesting, isn't it, the way they decide these things. Yeah. Okay. What about box and broken? And there you have it. Okay. Yeah. So I think you were mainly correct. Well done. Well done. So again, sometimes I think it's good just to test ourselves because we think we know our course books. And then suddenly we find out we don't quite know the course book as well as we thought we did. So we've got to go back and check. So I do think we owe our students that responsibility to keep checking that we're on track if we're going to go for this test. And these tests are, as we've said, supposed to be fun. They are fun. The children generally enjoy doing these tests and so on and so forth. And I think as teachers, we have to accept the responsibility to make sure that they are well prepared, that they know everything they need to know. And it can be really odd, the words that they don't know. A few years ago, I remember a recent flood of very low-level kids not having the word skip, which came up in some parts of the test, for example, mainly because their course book didn't do it. So I think it's important for us all to work that out. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a little look now at task type, because that's also important. Course books are written by different people. They work in different ways. And while, there are many different task types that we can think about, I think it's also important that our students, our children know how to deal with the different task types that will come up at the different tests and the different levels. And Cambridge has been working really, really hard to make sure that each level generally repeats the task types, that they're not confronted with it at each level with a whole new different selection of tasks, because that's, I think, rather unfair, because that's not testing language as much as cognitive development, isn't it? And the great thing about these task types is that they also then get repeated at the higher levels as well. So you can see there, for example, on your screens right now, drawing lines, matching names to people. Okay, which levels? Your starters, movers, and flyers. Which exam paper do you think? Do you think that's listening? Do you think that's reading and writing? Or what do you think? Okay, right, yeah, absolutely. Drawing lines, matching names is all listening at all levels. Indeed, indeed. And we're going to have a little bit of a closer look at that in just a second. About ticking boxes under pictures. Yeah. Right. Locating object and color. Only at starters level, that one, which is why your prepositions of place are so important. Yeah. Okay, starters, listening as well, isn't it? About copying words. Yeah, that's obviously, yeah, if they have to copy a word, then that means they see a word, which means it's the reading and writing part of the test, isn't it? And that happens at all levels as well. Okay. Okay, writing words or numbers in gaps. Yeah, comes in twice at movers and twice at flyers. So that's basically both the listening and the reading and writing. Okay, all times. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ticking boxes to choose titles is obviously reading and writing. And as you can see, being able to complete short sentences, also reading and writing at movers and flyers, and completing short sentences comes in at the higher levels as well. Okay, so now, of course, we have to check that our course books do these task types, and if they don't, then we have to find ways of doing that. Okay, again, that might not be so easy. So not all course books actually tell you at the beginning of the course book map exactly what kind of tasks are dealt with, if it's not a dedicated exam prep book. So we might have to go a little bit further to check this is this type of tasks, and it's then important that we know exactly what the test involves. So at that point, it's really, really great to have the sample test papers to hand so we can see the task type, and then we can see exactly how to adapt the course book to the task type offered by the exam. Okay. So I said earlier that we were going to have a little bit of a look. Okay, so if we look at this sample test listening, which level is it, first of all? That's the easy bit. Is it starters, movers, or flyers? Yeah, of course it's starters, absolutely. Silly questions this woman is asking me here. I can hear you all scream at your screens, which is valid, but you know, it is very much a starters test. And which items tell you, which items in the picture tell you that it's starters? Balloons, exactly. Yeah, there are balloons everywhere, and we've already established that balloons are a starters level word. Indeed, indeed. There are other starters type words there. For example, you have a box, cats, birthday, cake, and so on and so forth. Okay, but it's clearly the balloons that we're after here. Okay. How obviously the children have to color different balloons in different colors. How do the children know which balloon to color. Which color? Eleanor remembers the picture. They can be quite repetitive, can't they? Prepositions, prepositions of place, exactly. Okay, so for example, if you're looking at there's a cat, there's a balloon very close to a cat, what would they hear? Which preposition of place would they hear in relation or to connect the balloon and the cat there? It might be behind the cat, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And there's a box and another balloon. What's going to be the connection there? Between the boxes, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. You can see here on the next slide the whole list, exactly. So you can see next to, yeah, between, under, on, behind, and so on and so forth. Okay. So there are different things that you could do with this, obviously. I think most children's course books nowadays are in color, but should you have black and white course books, or if your workbook is in black and white, for example, or you're copying material from different books, not supposed to do that, of course, but still, most of us do not have a color photocopier, so it can be quite useful actually to use black and white, and then to just practice. Okay, color this black, color this pink, color this blue, color this whatever it happens to be, to get the children used to listening and to get them used to coloring different things. I'm sure you all do that anyway. Okay, and then all you need to do is to keep practicing the prepositions, and of course there are various different ways of doing that. I'm sure you have hundreds and hundreds of ideas. Perhaps you'd care to share some of them. How would you practice the prepositions of place? What silly ideas can you think of to practice prepositions of place? Yeah. Exactly. Oh yes, using toys is always a good thing. Absolutely. Hide and seek in the classroom. Okay. That's interesting. That assumes you do not have a class of 25, but yes, okay. Good. Hiding flashcards. Hiding also real things, not just the flashcards, but hiding real objects, which clearly would then also be on the list, on the word list. Okay. Would you, as teacher, be doing all of the hiding, or would you encourage the children to hide some things and get their friends to find them? I think that's a useful thing. It's not, it's to give the students, even the younger ones, even the very low level ones, you know, the beginnings of independence, because they're also going to have to be able to do that higher up the range, aren't they? And if we're doing everything as teachers, it's terribly tiring, isn't it? Terribly, terribly tiring. Children should definitely do this, indeed. Okay, let's just have a quick look at the flyers test. Okay, so this is the same thing, essentially. They've got to listen very carefully. They've got to match, in this case, names to people. Okay, and again, the names are all on the word list. Cambridge will not use names that are not on the word list. Something to bear in mind. Okay, because we know names can be difficult. They don't always relate into meaning in the same way as other words. So, and English names can be radically different sometimes from Russian names, from Armenian names, from whichever other names you happen to have. Okay, even in the UK and across Western Europe now, names are varying radically. It's not all about the national names anymore, is it? So I think it's important to check names on the word list to make sure that your children recognize these names when they hear them. Okay. How is this test different? Okay, so in the starter speaking test, it was all about prepositions of place. There's only one object, and it was the prepositions of place that we're essentially practicing there. How is this different now at flyers? What are we practicing? How do we differentiate between the different people in the picture? Matching pictures to names, well, yes, but how? Yeah, what they're doing exactly. what they're wearing. So it's all about different things there. Yeah. So for example, you can say, oh, that she's riding a bike, but we've got two girls riding a bike, so we've got to figure out exactly which of the two girls we're talking about. The children do need to understand that it's not always the first piece of information that they hear which will be correct. And I think that is one of the most difficult things, not just because of the fact that they have to listen so much, but generally, I think we'll agree, even with teenagers, they hear the word they think they need and they stop listening. Isn't that true? Do your teenagers do that? Yeah, particularly the young teenagers. They go, oh, yeah, whatever, that was that, and they stop listening. And it's the same with the primary age group, okay? Getting them to listen to everything twice can be something of a challenge, but we've got to find ways and means of making them do that. Okay. Because it's important to know whether it's the girl wearing the blue t-shirt or the girl wearing the blue trousers, for example, or the girl wearing the purple t-shirt and so on and so forth, or the girl with the long hair or whatever it happens to be. Yeah. So these are the ways in which Cambridge subtly raises the level of challenge. Okay. Okay, and of course, once you have the names from the flyers word lists, you can apply them to any picture in your course book, and you can basically practice the whole thing. With flyers, you can also get them to write their own sentences, to then read them to each other, so that, again, they practice reading and actually actively producing the language in writing and in speaking, as well as having to listen to what their partners are saying so that they can identify the correct person on the picture. Okay, so you've got to think about it in terms of making sure that everything you do is practiced. It's all integrated. We're all about integrating things because it's a language. We don't ever just listen. We sometimes have to also read and write and everything and so on and so forth. And it's very important, even at the young age, to make sure that all of these skills are practiced, isn't it? Okay, right. Let's move on there. Okay. Yeah, you've got the support materials. I'm going to move on from that. You know where to find them. Okay. One of the things that you will find on cambridgeenglish.org is pictures, thematically organized, of course, so that you can download them and use them in your own materials. It's a good idea because it helps the children to recognize the pictures also when they see them in Cambridge tests, because they're not real photographs, they're essentially drawings, and people draw in different ways. I think it's important to use the pictures that Cambridge provides. Okay, so you can use these. What kind of ideas would you have for using these pictures? Anybody in the chat box? What could you do with these pictures? Pictionary, good idea. Yeah, like that. Like that. Possibly. Memory game with words and names, of course. Yeah. Remote texting. Ooh, how interesting. Bingo. Yeah, absolutely. All kinds of guessing games there. Indeed. Lots of silly ideas. And if you're using, you can print them. They're free to print from cambridgeenglish.org. So of course, that means they're going to be printed in general in black and white, because most of us are not going to have access to a color printer or a color photocopier. So even more opportunities to have them practice coloring and different things. Exactly. Perhaps you'd like to have a black and green striped frog, for example. I think that would be quite exciting, don't you think? Okay. And sometimes odd things come up. Miming. Ooh, now there's an interesting thought. Okay, yeah, exactly. All kinds of things happening there. Okay. This is one of the test tasks. Yeah, reading Handwriting. Okay, all they have to do is to read and decide whether that the sentence is correct. Okay, so specifically for this task type, what are you going to think about? What can you do? Possibly. Okay. True, false, absolutely. Okay, listening activity. Playing a deaf word. That sounds very interesting there, Elena. Okay. Yeah, all sorts of flashcard games you can think of there. So you can, there's a suggestion just gone onto the screens right now. Okay. I think the next step from that is obviously going to be getting them to write their own sentences and pass them to their neighbors, get them to choose the correct card. Absolutely. Okay, so you're practicing again, reading and writing, and you can take that then to the next level and practice speaking and listening. I think it's important, however, to make sure that your children do write as much as possible, because although children tend to be happier just producing language, there will come a time when they get all self-conscious and they prefer to write things down and to look at it and to think, that looks right, okay, let me say that. Okay, because obviously when we write, we have more time to think about what we're writing. And I think that's a good idea there. Okay, let's have a look at this one. This is an interesting task. And I can remember as a child, back in the dark ages, when I was at primary school in England, we had lots of this kind of thing, lots of these kind of jumbled words. Okay, and for some reason I found that my Russian students really struggled with this type of activity. So it's obviously not something that's done very often. Yeah, they have to unscramble the words, essentially. It is to check spelling, as some of you are saying. Okay, so what can we invite the children to do? Can we get them to do to help them with this kind of thing? Any ideas there? What can we ask them to do? Hangman. Okay. 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 Yeah. Give cards with letters. Yeah. I think that's a very good idea. Okay. Exactly. Obviously, I can hear lots of you going, "Oh, the word." Yes, but if you make collections of letters, then obviously before, the first thing to do is to print your collections of letters. Give each child a printed page, then have them color the letters in different colors as they wish, then take it all back off them. At the end of the lesson, laminate the whole lot, and then you can cut them up and the kids can use them again and again and again. Because otherwise you're going to be killing forests and people lose things and so on and so on and so forth. And I think, constructive work with a laminator is a good thing here. And remember, if you laminate things, the kids can also write on them with dry white markers as well, which means that you can use it for different things as well. Okay. Right. I think actually I'm pretty much done. Yeah, I'm sure you know all the official preparation materials and so on and so forth. I'm not going to bore you with the details. With all of that, I'm sure CUP will have something else to say. I don't know if you've discovered the World of Fun website, which looks a little different at the moment, but it's still there. All kinds of things, ideas there. There's also an app which I checked out as well, so that children with smartphones And yet we know there are children with smartphones, particularly in Russia. Come on, let's be honest about this. So why not have them use that to practice vocabulary and different things? Comes in at different levels and so on and so forth. Okay, right. So I think that's me. I'd like to thank you very much for bearing with me this morning. I'm sorry I couldn't have the camera on long enough for you to see me, but you know, sometimes that's a bit of an advantage, to be honest with you. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat box and the question box, and we'll get back to you on that. Thank you very much. And back to Julia, who's going to tell me exactly what I have to do now.
Claire, thanks a lot for this inspiring presentation. Thank you very much. Lots of nice comments in the chat box. Thanks a lot. So now you just need to keep casting and stay with us and listen to other presentations.
Thank you. I will do that.
Thanks. Okay, now it's time to introduce the next presenter, Anka Zapart. Anka, if you can hear me well, please go on air and start webcasting. I'm uploading your slides at the moment. Anka, how are you today?
I'm all right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. We can see you. Can you see your slides?
Fantastic. Not yet, but something is happening, I think. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, it's here.
Yes. Can you change the slides? Is everything okay?
Yes.
With the control panel?
Here. Okay. 1 second. Okay. Yes, I think it's going to be all right.
Yes, it works.
Okay.
That's great.
Works, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. So,
1 second, Julia. I think it's not my present. Okay. I see. You can go too far. Okay, backwards. Okay, there we go. I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's start?
Yes, let's start. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Such a beautiful, beautiful audience. My name is Anka. I am from Poland originally, and I work for BKC IH Moscow, and I'm many things. I'm also a teacher, and today I'm going to be talking to you about using pictures, basically. Let's go. First of all, I would like to show you, two photographs. And then just to get us started, if you look at those photographs at the first glance, you would probably see very different things. In one of the pictures, just looking for a second, you would think maybe that this is a desk of a very messy teacher. Because there are many things. There is a fork, there is a piece of a stick with a paper star and juice and a book and God knows what else. In the other picture, you might think that perhaps a teacher was bored during the lesson and started drawing on her own fingers, which is something that students do when they are bored. But not really, because if we look more closely, or if you would like to think about the picture and really what happened, these are just two beautiful teaching moments that I caught on camera and decided to save. The first one is my desk, yes, a messy one, but right after a lesson with very young learners online. So you can see that a lot of things were actually happening. And we were doing parts of the house. You can see, I think in the flashcards, it's the bathroom. I decided to play with a magic bag. So I brought lots of junk from around the house, and we were taking out the things and guessing in which room there could be. And this is what the lesson looked right, the desk looked 1 second after I said goodbye to my students. In the other picture, there are letters on my fingers, but this is because we were doing a project lesson, the first real project with my primary students, some of whom were not in school at the time. And I really wanted something to remind them about 5 things that they should include in their, well, presentations, shall we say. And it was a project about crazy sports. So you can see here that N on my thumb is for the name of the sport, and P is for the number of players, and C is for clothes that the people will be wearing. B is for ball or maybe some other equipment, although they didn't know the word equipment yet. And W is for the winner, or how. Oh, you can't hear. Okay. Is it better now? Maybe I should bring the microphone a bit closer. Is it better? Okay, I will continue. Please let me know if you can hear me. Okay, super. Thank you. Someone suggested that... okay, let's see. We can switch off the camera. I don't really mind, but... okay, let's see. Let's try. So basically, that's what it is. And I included this picture because those 2 photographs show us, or show me, or are a symbol how we can actually go deeper and how much more there is behind each picture. And this is why in this session today, we are going to look at how we can use pictures and illustrations to get our students to produce the language, our young learners, students, and students who are preparing for starters or movers or flyers. If we look at the visuals in the classroom, we can see three different angles. First of all, there is the angle of the teacher. I only started looking into it properly recently, but this is one of the topics, visual literacy, something that we use, something that we should also develop as teachers, regardless of whether we are teachers of English or Russian or mathematics or history. This is one of the skills that modern children need, apart from the literacy related to reading and writing, apart from the computer literacy. This is also one of the areas that we should develop, because visuals are everywhere around us, and compared to, for example, how they were present in our life 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or even I don't know, 50 years ago, there is much more. And we are not only the recipients or our students, they are also the producers, right? People have their Instagrams, people have their blogs or whatnot, and everybody takes photographs. So developing this is visual literacy is an important part of their lives. And visual literacy is about understanding what you're looking at, being able to interpret it, and being able to analyze it, which basically goes towards the development of the critical thinking skills, which is not only important in English, but in subject and in students' development in general. So this is one angle. The other angle, because we are teachers of English, so developing language skills and getting the students to produce as much as possible is a very important aspect. I repeat this, we want more very, very frequently, because this is basically what I want from my students. And basically more language when it comes to speaking, to writing, more production. And visuals are an important element that helps us get this language out of the students. Of course, we have flashcards, the basic ones, but we have posters, we have maps, we have charts and symbols and graphs, and also visual toys that you can see here. This is something that I produced for my preschoolers to help them produce a discourse. I called it a discourse clock. And it basically has got different elements of an animal description. So you can see that, you know, students will be moving the hands of the clock, going around with the real with the real clock in the offline classroom, and they will be speaking, you know, talking first about how big the animal's, big or small, then what the color, how many legs, what it likes, and whether it lives in the house, in the jungle, or whatever. In the ocean was the third part. So a toy like this, because it's so visual, it really does help to produce a discourse. Well, 5-sentence would be called a discourse when we think of students who are only 5 years old, for example, and yet using this toy, yes, they can produce a lot of language because it's represented there visually. So this is the angle of the teacher of English. But there is the third angle as well that I thought of. It's the angle of the teacher of English, yes, but teacher who prepares students specifically for the young learners exams. And we have to remember that many of our students, depending on which exam we are talking about here, but to some extent, all of them are still developing their literacy skills, reading and writing, and they are unable to just approach reading and writing in the way that B2 students, for example, would be, or C2 students. Reading and writing here has a different realization, and it looks differently. And because of that, in order to support the students in their journey, we use visuals to help them understand the text, to give them a little bit of a hint what it might be about. And you can see beautiful visuals across all the materials that help us prepare for young learners exams. But very often, especially for starters, but also for movers and for flyers, it's not only the support, it's how actually we can test them. Because can you imagine testing students who are pre-A1 level, testing them just using letters, just using the written word? In this case, they would focus more on the written language rather than on listening, for example, which we would like to test. In starters, for example, task 1 to 3, I guess it is, when they have to listen to the question and choose the correct answer, there isn't much writing. The answer is going to be represented by a visual, and they are choosing a picture, and this is how we know that they actually understand what the conversation is about. So these are those 3 angles. And I know that some of you might say, yes, okay, but I'm a teacher, I only want to teach English, or I'm a teacher, I only care about the exams. It's okay. Although, to be honest with you, just based on my experience with all the teachers that I have had a chance to work with or I don't know, train, I think that there are very few people who actually want to do just their English. Many people, we are great, basically, and we do many things. But even if you only want to focus on the language, I think it's good to know that apart from that, we are developing other things as well, even if we don't really want to, perhaps. Okay. Now, so there we go. This session, this very short session today, for this session, I have set for myself 2 aims. Yes, Alec, absolutely. And I think we do, I don't know about all the teachers in the world, but definitely teachers of language, we do a lot more. Just because it's fun, just because it's interesting, just because students are interested in that. So we definitely very often go outside of the very strict linguistic zone. So these are my 2 aims for this session, and at the end of this slot, I'm going to get back to them to ask you whether I have managed to achieve them. So please, you're going to be my observers and my assessors today. First of all, we're going to look very briefly at the speaking skills development across the young learners exams, and then I would like to demonstrate and share with you some of low prep, adaptable young learners exams inspired and visual materials based activities for young learners, for primary school students, to focus on the development of the speaking skills. Alec, yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's go. I have taken those from the Young Learners Exam Handbook, and of course, if you are already teaching exams, this is not going to be, not all of it is going to be new for you. You can find it in the handbook. I didn't want to put here like very specific division in, just include the skills for the starters, for the movers, and for the flyers, because really even though each particular exam focuses on a skill, and even though they are graded and adapted to the level of the language of the students, actually in our classes, we can go a little bit outside of this well, box. And here in the handbook, this is the information that you can find. What we want from our students is to understand spoken instructions for the lower levels, name some familiar objects and things, but also start providing descriptions of people or objects and of actions, even though, for example, for starters, it's very, very minimal, but still they get this question, oh, tell me about this dog, tell me about this cat. And they have to come up with very basic, but still, description. And if you think about it, this is the same question that they are going to be asked later on during their B1 or B2 exam. Oh, well, tell me about this, this photograph. So we are teaching them to be open about this and being able to express their opinion and describe what they can see. There are also questions, and yes, from the very basic yes and no questions to simple questions on familiar topics, but in flyers you can also get some questions about the past as well. Responding to questions not only from the angle of what kind of questions they are, but how much we expect from the students. So single words, phrases, sentences, but also later on complex sentences. So this is something to think about. Asking questions about everyday topics, but you know that this will be more obvious in the flyers exams with the information gap when they actually have to construct questions, but also later on telling a simple story using pictures or telling a simple story using pictures and own ideas for the more advanced students in the group of young learners exams. But an important thing to remember, and this is especially clear when you look at the boxes in the handbook, is that a part of this, a part of speaking, is also listening. The listening skills are also a part of this, because how else are you going to, how else are the students, that is, how else are the students going to know what to talk about if they don't understand the instructions? So it's good to remember that it's not only just blabbing, it's also the ability to blabbing. This is not a nice word, right? Sorry. Not only just producing the language, but also being able to hear exactly what is it that the examiner or the other person, the teacher or the fellow student, your friend, what is it that they want from you in order to produce the language, to answer the question. Yes, thank you, Alex. An interesting discussion going on in the chat room. Okay, so here we go. I was thinking how to divide those activities, and I thought, oh my God, if I decide to go by movers, starters, and flyers and present something for each of the levels, we are not going to do any of those properly, because we have 45 minutes and there are many other great presenters waiting for their turn, and you are waiting for them as well. So I decided to step away a little bit from the very, very strong exam focus and very, very strong exam preparation, and we are not going to look at them you know, in very strict way. Okay, this is the task to prepare for starters, this is the task to prepare for movers, and this is the task to prepare for flyers. If you're already teaching the exams, then you will be able to see. And maybe I will be asking those questions like, oh, what does this look like? And you will immediately recognize the activity. But many of those exam tasks are a great inspiration for speaking activities, regardless of the level. And hopefully I will be able to demonstrate it in a moment. So for that reason, I decided to go for, well, I called it here an open-minded approach, in inverted commas, open-minded approach, with no connection to any particular exam, young learners exam, although, as I said, young learners exams, Cambridge exams will be the source of my inspiration here. And I decided to share with you what I often do. It's basically the starting point to many, or if not to all of these activities, will be a picture. And probably, but this was only yesterday, I chose the same picture. We're basically going to work with one picture. And possibly by the end of the session, you will be sick of this bedroom with pink walls. I should have probably chosen something more pleasant for the eye. But here it is, here we are. So this is what we are going to be working with. And I tried to choose the activity that will be activities that will be easy to put together with minimal preparation time, but at the same time effective, and hopefully activities that you will be able to recycle with a few levels or classes. Okay, so let's go. The only division that I have decided to use here is for the kind of lower level groups and higher levels. So we're going to start with the lower level groups. Okay, so here we go. This is the first set of activities in which you can only have one picture. So imagine that there is an illustration or a photograph, and it can be something that you have found in the book, because our course books have many beautiful materials already. It can be something that you put together using the Miro board, like I have. Upgraded it a little bit to the needs of my students, or it can be just an illustration that we find on Google, or an illustration that we find in one of the journals, in one of the magazines, newspapers. As long as you look at it first with your teaching eye and decide that it will be appropriate for the students of this level. So the first thing, for example, imagine this is a bedroom. These are the things in the bedroom, and you can see that there are also other things lying around, so there is some potential for prepositions. So this kind of a task could be used with the starters kits as well. But the first thing, even before you show the students the picture, you can tell them that, okay, I have a picture of a bedroom. What is in the bedroom? So they start to predict. So this is one of the approach. And this is something super easy before they open their course books, before you put the screen, before you put the photograph on the screen, before you display it on the board. What do you think will be in this room? And even very simple, at the beginning of year 1 of primary, they will be able, even if only in the beginning, say a dog, a bed, a clock, a desk. Very simple. But then, of course, it can go a little bit further, and students, once they already are looking at the picture, they can just describe. I can see the basic ones. Even, I don't know, in the second week of primary, when they have just started to learn the language, I can see a cat, I can see a bed, I can see a clock. And maybe add the colors, maybe add the numbers, because you can see that it's possible in this picture. Maybe later on, if they already know the prepositions on and in, I can see a cat on the chair, I can see a present on the floor, etc., etc. And then another thing, and this is probably something that I do almost in every lesson, making riddles. Simple sentences. It's black, it's on the chair. It's orange, it's on the floor. It's white and yellow and black, it's on the wall. So, of course, the teacher will be modeling this kind of an activity first with the whole class, but then this is an activity that they can easily perform in pairs or in groups, and it doesn't have to take 10 minutes or 5 minutes. It can be a minute, just to let them get familiar with the picture that they are going to be working with later. Then another one, teacher cheater. If you have only one picture, there is nothing that would stop you from telling your students, sitting, for example, like this, oh, I have a picture of a bedroom. In my picture, the cat is on the bed. And the kids are looking at their own picture and say, oh, no, Anka, the cat is on the chair. It's like, oh, look at that. And I can see 10 books on the floor. And they look at their own picture and oh no, I can see 4 books. Even though, of course, the second picture doesn't exist. I'm just holding a book that I'm going to be using today for my teenage class. It still can be a nice activity. It doesn't really matter. Of course, I was thinking, will my students trust me the second time around? But I think my group, they are already used to so many alternative approaches that they would actually go for it. So I haven't tried this when I haven't tried this in a version when the students are trying to cheat as well. But yesterday when I was rehearsing for this training session today, I thought, oh my God, they would love it if I let them create their own imaginary idea and just talk about it. And it doesn't matter. Let them talk. They still have to pay attention to this photograph or to this picture because they have to make up an alternative sentence. So this is something that I'm going to try very, very soon. Definitely. And another activity, the final one on this page, in my real room. This is something that we started to use a lot since we went online in March. And this is such a wonderful idea because in my real room, in this pink room, I can see a bed, but in my real room, I can see a sofa. And in this pink room, I can see a cat, but in my room, I can't see a cat, unfortunately, and so on. And we produced a lot of those activities. Children were absolutely, well, beyond excited to be talking about their real rooms. And of course, this is kind of limited because here we have the bedroom or the room, so this is easy. But we can talk about it in the same way about the clothes that we are wearing, about the toys that we have in our bedroom. I don't know, things in our bag or things in our pencil case, etc., etc. So very, very easy, but we are still working with the basic thing that we have found in our course book or in I don't know, somewhere online. But it can also happen that we are lucky enough, we have two pictures. And as you can see, this is a picture that I created specifically for my students. So it took some time, but then I managed to recycle it a few times. So even if you don't want to print, Claire was saying about like not killing too many trees. And I'm so happy that, you know, one of the good things about the quarantine and the pandemic was that we have saved quite a few trees working for a few months now online, so God bless that. But even if you don't want to print a picture for everybody, and why would you? You can print one big picture that will be displayed on the wall, on the board, or on the screen if you're working online, and the students can compare it with whatever they have in their books. And again, at one point or in the beginning, when they're getting used to it, the teacher will be in the lead, of course, and the kids will be just providing little bits of information. But I have to tell you that this kind of an activity, you know, with those specific those two pictures, I did this activity with my student who is 5 years old and who is now in the second, well, yeah, kind of. We are in the second year. We've just started the second year of learning. So a very young learner. And of course, she wasn't able to talk about all the prepositions because she doesn't know them yet. We haven't covered them. But I can see 2 books and I can see 4 books, definitely something that even preschoolers can do. And then as they grow up and as they get more language, they can produce a lot more, obviously, and more specific information. So that's one. But then there is a lot more to it because you have 2 pictures. But sometimes you can have something that I would call accidental friendships. Pictures that are beautiful. These were taken from young learners' sample papers. I think it's starters. But they were not really created with this particular activity in mind. These 2 came from reading and writing, the final task, reading and writing, when the students have, well, kind of a story, right? It's still a story. It's a story in 3 pictures, and they have some questions. They have to answer them with 1 word. And I thought, all right, this is good. We can use it for reading and for writing, of course. But look at those 2 pictures. It's begging to be used in this kind of an activity. Oh, okay, a bird is flying and a bird is sitting. Mom is working and mom is looking at apples. Let's assume that she's looking at apples. Daddy is sleeping and daddy is not sleeping, etc., etc. So those materials are already there and we can use it. Absolutely, yes. I mean, I'm not even talking here about the cognitive skills that we are developing all the time. This is absolutely something useful, and this is that we should be developing. And this is why the students get so excited about those tasks, because they know them from preschool, from school, they do those kind of activities. Oh, find 10 differences. Yes. So they know this is something natural for them. We are just, you know, the Cambridge exam format has taken it for that reason. to test their language skills, and we can use it many times in our lessons to help them practice the language and produce the language. So these are, for example, those two that can be used, and it takes a second to prepare those materials. And even more, for example, you will see the bedroom here. Again, two different pictures. This is a picture that I have, and this is a picture that comes from one of the listening tasks. It doesn't really matter that they were not created with this specific task in mind, okay, so that they have to be kind of similar. Nah, they don't really have to be. We have two pictures. There are two bedrooms in those pictures. That's it. Nothing else. For example, when we were practicing this very topic with my level 2 students, and we were doing things in the house, I bought a journal. I went to the kiosk and I was like, okay, hello, with my broken and not perfect Russian. I was like, can you sell me a journal that has a lot of pictures of rooms in it? And the lady looked at me and she was like, okay, this is not someone that I get to hang out with every day. But she found me a journal. So, right after I went to the school, I got all the pictures out, cut them nicely, and we were just comparing those rooms forever, basically. Okay. And is there something else? Okay. And another variation of it, one step forward, when we have a picture, but we can kind of get two pictures, although initially there is one. You will be able to recognize very easily that this is a listening task. This one is for starters, because yes, we would be using prepositions here. And of course we can use it for listening task. First of all, this is why it was created. This is why we Yes, I'm using Miro, especially with the younger students. With older ones, I realized that my teenagers appreciate a PowerPoint, so be it, and I can save it. But with all the younger students, with primary and pre-primary, I'm using Miro. But here I wanted to show you that the same task, this listening task, not even the listening task, the materials for the listening task, this black and white picture, this is how we are using it to generate more language in the context. So I bring a picture, I bring a set of pencils or crayons, and each pair of students get one paper and one set of crayons. One student is holding the paper, the other student is holding the crayons. The student with the yes, but you can recycle it and you can move it around. So it depends what materials are some cool. So it depends. When you have a picture, the student is basically dictating, oh, the pineapple on the computer is green, and gives out the green pencil. The student colors it. So this way we are using the same material to generate the production. But later on, when the kids are done, then of course they can exchange. So the student who was listening is now producing. But in the end, as a feedback activity, the kids can compare their pictures in pairs, and they have already created this material. And maybe the pineapple, there is some likelihood that the pineapple on the TV will actually be green in both cases, but they will still talk about it. But more likely than not, there will be like all the colors of the rainbow, and the pictures will be really different, and the students will be curious to find out how it works and what their picture looks like. So this is the exam materials. But very often, to be honest with you, I just Google coloring pictures. Of course, you have to make sure that it's not just one big dog to color, because how much language can you get out of it, and how much time it would actually take to color this dog. So you can make the picture smaller, for example. And here, this is one of the examples I just Googled, in the park coloring picture. Yes, the presentations will be shared, I think. But yes, I can. There will be my address. So if you want to get in touch, then yes, I'm more than happy to share all of it. So you can just find a picture, and kids can use it for coloring dictation as well, and then for comparing the pictures. If like they don't know, dragonfly is not one of the words that features on the Cambridge Young Learners exams list yet, maybe, but it's a cool word to know, and it can be used here as well. Okay, and one of the things for the lower level is you will recognize easily. This is one of my top activities. Which one is different? Because it gives us an opportunity to focus on a specific vocabulary set. For example, here, colors, right? If you want to practice colors or animals or clothes or food, or it gives us an opportunity to focus on a specific structure, present continuous. So even if it's animals, you know, we can talk about has got, or hippo can. So we can practice the language that we are actually working on. It can be turned into a chant. I was, again, something that came to me yesterday when I was like, you know, there are four. It's like, it's blue, it's blue, it's blue, it's red. And if you have other ones, then it can be easily played with, and it could be a nice chant. But this one I haven't tried in the classroom yet, but again, something that is going to happen. And it can be easily students generated. You can, this one on the screen I put together using Miro as well, students or teachers can use the flashcards that you have available, or mini flashcards, and they can create a lot. Yes, Olga, I absolutely love it. Absolutely love this this kind of an activity. And again, to show you that this particular task, which is a mover's task, I use this with my online, with my student who is 3 years old. And of course, he doesn't even know all those words. But the focus for us at this point was, okay, it's blue, it's blue, it's blue, it's red. This is what he can say, or we can say together, and this is what we focused on. But again, cognitive skills are here. He's invited to look at the pictures, and we can work at that. So this is definitely one of my favorite activities, and that is why it has made into the second half of this game the activities for the higher levels, because you know very well that this is a mover's task. Oopsie. Here we go. But we play it even with my older students because it's a great idea and they want to produce it. One of the activities that I started playing with those particular animals that you can see here, if I could ask you, which one is different, what would you say? We have a seal, a mouse, a bear, and a monkey. I wonder if someone can guess. Can you type up maybe the animal that is different and why you think it's different? A seal. Anastasia, why a seal? Why a seal? Yes, Hagin, I will explain why. Yes. Oh, you think it's a seal, it can swim. Oh, these are great ideas, thank you, but they are not my ideas. So what do you think my idea is? A seal. No, it's not a seal. It's a good idea, I love it, but it's not my idea. Mouse. Yes, mouse is transparent. It's a great idea, but it's not my idea. Mouse is the smallest. Also great idea, but not my idea. No. Bear. Short tail. Not my idea, though. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to torture you more. This way, being a little bit mean, my idea, but not my idea, a good idea, but not my idea, we managed to generate so much language with my then mover student, and I was like, okay, hold on, we're going to practice and do that a lot more. It's actually, to be honest with you, a monkey. My original idea is it's a monkey because monkey is the only animal that does not live in Russia. It's not its natural habitat. But even we here, we have produced already lots and lots of language. So that's one thing. The other thing, how many can you think of? My students, they just didn't want to stop, essentially. They were looking at the pictures and coming off a lot more. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to stop you. I'm having fun. You've got great ideas. Why would we stop it? And of course, this is this kind of an activity that students can generate themselves and talk to other students. And why? Why do you think we had this? So I absolutely, absolutely adore it. And do recommend it. There's a big yes. Yes, absolutely my favorite activity. Another thing, and going back again to differences, I hope you're not sick yet of this picture of the pink room. I don't know why I have chosen the pink room. I have no idea, but okay. Students, like the younger students, they can predict differences before they even see the second picture. They can, based on what is in this picture, they can predict. what's going to be happening, or what they will see in the other pictures, sorry. And this can be turned into a writing activity and a competition, because if you ask them to write 5 things that they think will be different in the other picture, and then they can check themselves and see who is best at guessing, at predicting. This can be easily done as a prediction. And then another one here on the list that I very often do. It's not necessarily an exam task, because in the exam, you know, students, they are allowed to see both pictures, and they are supposed to react to the information from the pictures, but also from the examiner. But it can be done on a, you know, raising the level of challenge a little bit, and they can only see one picture. If they see facing their parent, looking at one of the pictures, how much more language they can produce, and they can talk about all the differences there are in the picture, comparing, showing the pictures only at the very end. And then another way of extending this activity is explaining why the books are on the floor. The books are on the floor because I think someone is doing homework here. And why is the room pink? Because it's a girl's room. What time is on the clock? It's 9 o'clock. But is it the evening or is it the afternoon? So they can, it depends, Anastasia. And this is, I think, another great thing about prediction, that you can use it with different levels. So if the students have the language, or if you want to teach them this language, then they can use models. Why not? But if not, for the lower levels, they can use present simple. Yeah, the cat, or present simple, or present continuous. Absolutely. And then taking it one step further, we are kind of coming closer. This story, well, each picture, I think someone clever and someone famous said this, that each picture is actually a story. So we can guide our students in that direction. We could, of course, create other pictures before and after, right? This is possible. But if we don't want to, they can, just by answering questions about this picture, appropriate questions, they can create some background. Who lives in this room? Do you think it's a boy? Or it's a girl? Okay, maybe it's a girl. And how old is she? Maybe not 3. I can't see any toys, or too many dolls, or too many toys. There is one car. So if it's not her car, whose car is it? Well, maybe it's her baby brother's. What does she like? She likes cats. She likes flowers. What did she do today, if they have past simple already? She's not in the bedroom right now. Where is she? What is she doing? What is she doing? Where is she going to do next week? And mind you, so even now, by answering those questions, we can kind of create the background and almost a story, right? That can be developed further, because they can write it, they can have a role play about this person or with this person in it. But to be honest with you, even this picture is not very exciting. It's just a bedroom. So if we found a picture that has something already happening in it, so even more so, that would be a motivation for students to talk about it, to take it further. Yes, can be really noisy. Everything can be really noisy, depending on the day sometimes. So I think if at least we have a good starting point, if we are ready and there is the activity, then classroom management will come. This is the basis. And what is the point of having a very quiet and well-behaved class if they don't produce and if they don't say anything? Could you show the picture with difference to this picture? I think it's probably somewhere further down the line. I don't want to skip, because we have only 5 minutes left, and I would like to. It's boring. Yes, but imagine, because this is another idea that I had, that it's boring. Kulmira said that it's boring for our kinesthetic learners. They could bring objects, or the teacher could bring objects that could be also in this room, or the objects related to the story afterwards. And this picture could be just the first step, and to writing a very short dialogue or a longer dialogue, if students can do it. And to reenact the conversation between, for example, mom and this girl, when mom comes home, and well, it's kind of messy, right? The books are everywhere, the car is here. So this would introduce this other level. So it depends on the, yes, we could make the students create those questions themselves. Absolutely. This is just an idea here too. And if we give them just, you know, how old she, then we automatically kind of, we're pushing them towards flyers, like, okay, make a question. Okay, and then the final one, the final slide that I wanted to show you, it's not really related to any level in particular. These are just my favorite activities, really. Using the same picture again. I spy with my little eye. Normally we use this game to talk about, to focus on the first sound. I spied something with my little eye, something beginning with B, etc., etc., right? But again, it can go a little bit towards making riddles. I spy with my little eye something big and something yellow and greenish. Oh, it's bad. Sorry, so this is another activity. I try to use fairy tale. Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody loves stories, even older students. Noughts and crosses. You can see, I don't remember where I saw it for the first time, but I've been using it for years. You can see here that you just basically need a picture. Any picture, and again, this catalog or this journal with you know, photographs of different rooms, I use every single page in it. You just need to draw the grid, and of course, students have to before they put their note or they cross, they have to say something about each box. 1 sentence, 2 sentences, 3 sentences, depending on how advanced they are, and then they win. But I realized that very often, you know, very often early in the game, you already know that nobody's winning, that it's a tie and they don't want to participate. It's kind of pointless. So for that reason, I created this little grid here. So of course, during the game, it's hidden. We don't show it in the classroom, like in a presentation, it's behind basically. In the classroom, it's folded paper, so it's somewhere there. So students play the game, play noughts and crosses as they would normally. Thank you, Tatiana. And they, you know, put their noughts and crosses, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, only in the end, when we are done, we reveal the points, because you can put those points in, you know, it can be 1, 5, 0, 10. And they calculate their points. So we always have one winner, and this is the person who gets more points after we have done the maths. But sometimes you can also get 2 winners. So there will be one strategic winner who was marking the correct boxes, and another winner who just gets the number of points. And then another thing that I love to use is a dice. You can see here, it's very, very basic, doesn't really look like a dice, but using the same picture or using any picture, students work in pairs, they roll the dice, and depending on what they get, they have to describe or say something about the picture using this structure. So here is just an example. I can see, I like, okay, if you get 1, I can see a clock. Number 2, I like the cat. There is 1 bed. There are 4 books. The present is on the floor. It's green. Okay, it's green. Something is green or something is yellow. So this is something that again can be recycled with absolutely any activity. And last but not least, playing memory games. The same picture again. You can, thank you, Zakita. You can either prepare the sentences ahead of time, true and false sentences about this picture, or students, especially when they are a little bit more used to the whole idea, they can use it. They can produce those sentences themselves. So you show them the picture, the beautiful pink room, for a minute or 2. They have time to look at it, and then they read the sentences and say if these sentences are true or false. Okay, so we are finishing. I hope I have managed to meet my aims. I hope, please put a plus if I have. I hope you're going to take something out of it into your teaching life. Thank you very much for being here. I have included some acknowledgements and some links to the visual literacy materials if you're interested. If you want to get in touch, the final slides also, the final slide. Oh, thank you very much for all the pluses. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have included my contact details. I can be contacted on my work email, or I can be found on Instagram or on my blog if you're interested in more ideas. Funky Socks and Dragons. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I am done. The presentations will be shared with you. If you want to discuss anything, please get in touch. Thank you for being a wonderful audience.
Anka, thanks a lot for being a wonderful presenter.
Oh, Julia, thank you.
Fantastic, really. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see so many reactions in the chat, so many pluses, so many images, smiles. That's really great. Thanks
Yes.
for these
Thank you
great activities.
Thank you for the invitation one more time. Thank you, Julia. I am stopping. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a lovely
Thanks.
day.
Dear friends, now it's time to introduce the next presenter, Ian Raby. Ian, I'm uploading your presentation. Oops. Just a second. Where is the first slide? Ian, could you join me and go on air? Hi, Ian.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, yes, everything is perfect. We can see you, we can hear you. Can you see your slides?
I can see them, but I don't know if I can change the slides. I can't see the side to
Could you
side
move your
button.
mouse to the lower part of the screen? The control panel must appear there.
Yep, where it says share screen, presentation, and brush.
Okay, try to click on presentation.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great. So good luck with your slides, with your presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Julia. Oh, hello from the UK, where of course it is raining. And today, as usual, I'm talking about productive skills, and I'm focusing today on writing. And today is going to be a little bit different. Rather than focusing on the tasks in the exams, which I've done previously, and how to get the most out of those, I'm looking at how we can make writing actually look better. You know, in terms of the assessment, of course, if the person assessing a student's writing can read it, and if it's easy to read, then all the better. But also, I think it's very important for how students feel. When we talk about writing, or when we tell students we're going to do writing in class, there's often a or oh no, or can we do it for homework? And that's the same with students aged 7 and age 77, and it seems to carry on all the way through our lives, unfortunately. So I wanted today to look at some reasons why that might be the case and what we can do to alleviate that in some way. So I hope there'll be some useful and some interesting ideas there. And I'll also share some things about my personal problems that I had when I was a child with reading and writing, which has informed this. Okay. So, writing motor skills. If you're working with the smallest children, the biggest difference is compared to older kids and adults is that not only do we have teaching goals, we also have goals relating to motor skills, and these could be, oh, sorry, some people say they can't hear me, can you give me some indication of that, please, if people can or can't hear me? Okay, all right. So I never know whether when people say they can't hear, if it's me or it's them in that way. But there seem to be enough people who are saying they can, so I will just continue. Okay, so teaching motor skills. Motor skills can be very simple things. Using pens and pencils is what I'm focusing on today. Okay, and the tagline I've chosen here is, we told you to do it in pencil. And this is because I think when we work with small children, and actually anybody, always use a pencil. It's much better to use a pencil in class. I notice with my writing that it's much neater when I use a pencil, and I think that will be the same for kids as well. So here are some points I've got about why we should use pencil. Pencils like this one here that are six-sided are much easier for children to hold. You know, again, if you're not used to holding things, you know, perhaps kids who come from cultures where they use chopsticks are much better at holding pencils earlier on, but, you know, a six or eight-sided pencil is much easier to hold. Pencils are lighter than pens, and pens create a lot more mess, so the ink can go everywhere. Children, as you know, they like to sort of unwrap the pens and take the ink out, and they like to bite the ends off and do all of those things, you know, which can cause problems for them, for the other students, for you. I always have that problem when we, you know, we'd send kids out of the classroom and they go up to their mum and their hands are covered in blue ink. Yeah, of course we have to sharpen our pencils. I personally find sharpening pencils quite therapeutic, and I prefer to do it myself rather than let the children do it themselves. But it can often be an activity that you can use, you know, for example, okay, the person who arrives first or the person who's completed their homework can be the pencil sharpener, because kids really like to do this in class. Of course, if we're working online, it's to make sure that they've got a sharpened pencil at the beginning if you're wanting them to do it. Rubbers, of course, cause less mess on the page than correction fluid. So we've all seen this work, which is sort of just covered in Tipp-Ex. And, you know, it's impossible to, you know, to read what's been written when they've written over it and then they've Tipp-Exed it again. And then, of course, sometimes little girls like to use this Tipp-Ex as sort of nail varnish, which might look very nice, but it smells horrible and it's not what they're supposed to be doing. And pencils are, I think, cheaper and last a lot longer. So you can write with a pencil which is very, very short, especially if you're a very, very small person. Then you can work with a, you know, a much smaller pencil. Yeah, we've got this really nice comment here from Anna, fear of mistakes. So this, I think, this is one of the topics for today. You know, the problem with writing is that our mistakes are kind of manifest. They're there on the page. You know, there is this famous poem, "The moving finger writes and having writ moves on, and what's therefore been left on the page is there forever." With a rubber, we can get rid of it. The thing, of course, is to make sure that you have good quality rubbers. We've all seen the kids who kind of go like this and end up destroying their whole page. But then, of course, hopefully we've got a spare one. So yeah, start with a pencil, I think, is one of the important things. Okay, how to hold or to grip your pencil. Okay, this can take time because children may be unused to using their fingers in this way. Okay, I, you know, noticed that a lot of small children don't tend to use sort of, you know, we teach them quite late on now how to use knives and forks. And in many ways, they're the only other things that they have to hold on to. Balloons, perhaps, and we've all seen those balloons floating away, which is so bad for the environment. Because the children can't hold on to them. But actually to hold and grip a pencil or a pen can be quite difficult. So we need to, you know, be relaxed with students and be patient with them. Okay, don't make them hold their pencils for too long. Okay, writing activities for small children, of course, should be quite short because we're not expecting them to produce great long text. Maybe kind of words and sentences. But if we're getting them to, for example, practice writing the letter A or the letter B, and we want them to write a whole line in a row, that can take a long time for children. So I do find that sort of time limiting this to begin with is quite good. Make sure they aren't gripping too lightly, because of course then the pencil just falls out. The reverse is also true, so make sure they're not gripping too tightly. Because this could be painful for children. So if we're not used to gripping things, we can end up with these sort of red lines here. If children have flaky skin, they could even end up bleeding, which may not really hurt, but of course isn't very nice for them. And perhaps we forget this from our own childhoods, but I would say that it's quite similar to when you learn to play the guitar, the violin or the harp, which I did when I was younger, and you end up with sort of bleeding fingers. But it does toughen your fingers up, which is very helpful, I've found, for washing up. That I've called Mr. Teflon hands by my friends, because my fingers have been hardened by playing stringed instruments. And it's the same when you start using pens and pencils, and I guess chopsticks, as I mentioned before. Keep demonstrating. Okay, children, they're not necessarily like goldfish that they forget everything after so many seconds, but if you do some writing or some drawing in one lesson, and then you don't do it for a few more lessons, then they will forget. Therefore, it's very important that you demonstrate how to hold the pencil as well. And let children know if they're getting graphite on their hands and how to avoid doing so. So this is when this part of the hand here becomes all grey, and then they wipe it on their face, and then they look sort of like they've come out of Oliver Twist or something like this, and you send them back to their parents with dirty faces. It's hello from Uzbekistan as well. One of the only stands I haven't visited, but I would love to go. So different ways to grip. So you can see in this slide here, and I guess the slides will be available for you afterwards. There are some grips which are better, and the tripod is probably the most popular, the most common, and the one that we tend to use as we go forward. But the others are also all right as well. And I guess it's useful to demonstrate all of them, and to make sure children find what's best for them, and to realize that this may change over time. So what might be comfortable when you're sort of writing block capitals might not be the same as when you start writing in cursive. We also, of course, need to be cognizant of the students who are left-handed. And I've noticed this more so when I've been teaching small children how to use scissors, which is another problem, and that's, I guess, a different webinar entirely. But again, if you're right-handed, and most of your students are right-handed, then you do need to make sure that you're at least demonstrating how you should work with your left hand. Conversely, of course, if you're a left-handed teacher, then you're probably very used to writing left-handed and right-handed, so perhaps you're the best person for teaching these skills. All right, extra support. So some students might have problems with dexterity. We've got some kids, or I certainly have been teaching one little boy who, when he first came to me, was only 4 years old and could do a lot of things, but found the actual holding of the pencil, even when he knew what the grip was, very difficult. And that's because our kind of muscles and haven't sort of grown properly to the full size. They haven't developed because they're not being used in other contexts yet. Tendons are still growing, so small hands can be quite clumsy, as anyone who's given a china cup to a small child will know. So it takes time, it takes practice, it's things that we need to improve over time. So again, be gentle and be understanding with your students. But pencil grippers can be really helpful And what I would suggest is build up a small collection of your own of pencil grippers. So if you look at the picture here, when I was, learning to write when I was sort of 7 and 8, we only had these sort of triangular ones that went around the pencil. And at school, it was very much frowned upon to use these because all the other kids thought you were stupid or you were backwards. And so it was sort of, people struggled without them when they really needed them. But now that you've got all these different colors, different shapes, you can get kind of sparkly ones, you can even get branded ones, for example, inside Disney pencil cases and things. That's kind of taken away some of the stigma around it. So I would say build up a collection of your own, use them, allow students to use them, or if you have a student with a particular problem here, speak to their parents and ask them, to go and find them. They're very cheap. You can get them in all kind of bookshops and stationery shops in this way. But I have really noticed this stigma has gone, and I have a small collection. Everybody wants to use the sparkly ones. And again, I have this with scissors as well, and this is where I learned one of my favorite Russian words, which is blistyashi. Everybody wanted to have the blistyashi pencil gripper or the blistyashi scissors, and sometimes got upset if they couldn't have it. So we can change what was a negative into a positive there. These are also useful for older people. If you're working with adults who are a bit older, the kind of over 60s, over 70s, these can be useful for them as well. Okay. So, and use them yourself when you're practicing, I would say. All right, next slide. So L1 interference. Now, I guess this is going to be, I think this is a bigger problem for people who are going from Cyrillic to the Latin alphabet than it would be going from, Chinese or Japanese hieroglyphs or Arabic, because those languages are completely different. And it's much easier to have two very separate things. But of course, we have a problem where we mix them over. So there are some letters which are the same, and some which are different. And I remember when I worked with teachers, native speaking teachers, the first time we were in a Russian speaking place, and they were saying, what does pek-de-pa mean? And I was saying, well, it means restaurant, and actually it says restaurant if you knew the letters in that way. So how much more difficult is it for children? Oh, we've got a question here. Everybody learn to write properly. Why is it so important now? Doesn't it distract us and children from other things? So, I think writing is important only really these days in education. It's something which we don't tend to do in real life afterwards. But as long as exams exist, we have to kind of teach writing. And if we can do these things to make writing easier, to learn writing more quickly, then it becomes less difficult, less annoying. And I'll go on a bit later to say, some of the positive things that we can do. All right, so yeah, I'm being preempted here. Which letters do Russian children have problems with when writing English? So T and F, B and D. Actually, native speakers have this problem with B and D, but a good thing to do is if you write the word bed, and then draw somebody lying down across the top of this, then it helps us to remember this because we have sort of the ends of the B and the D making the bed frame. N and P, G and J, B, G and I, E and I, G and B and D. Yeah, G and D is a particular one. Okay, and I've got some of these on my next slide here. So S and C, and I guess this is the L1 interference because you might think that you should write a Russian S rather than an English S. Yeah, this kind of the ya, which is an R, and in fact you can see I've got this from a BBC documentary here, and every time we have something about Russia, and there's an R in it, they always put the R the wrong way around to make it look very Russian. D and G, Dolce and Gabbana there. That's one good way to remember it. The other good way to stop students getting D and G mixed up is, of course, dog and God, two very different things. And if you do this, it should stop them bringing it across. Q and G, yes, and this is a particular problem for left-handed students because they put the tail in the wrong direction. Yeah, I know what you mean. 3 hours is a very long time for a webinar. But you know, you could just, Stanislav, you can just watch if you prefer not to listen for a bit. Okay, I've got 3 signatures here. Currer Bell, Ellis Bell, and Acton Bell. These are 3 very famous people. Do you know who they are? Does anyone know who these 3 people are? Aha, exactly, full marks to Svetlana. So when the Bronte sisters started writing, they used men's names to publish first. And what I wanted us to look at here are some of the problems that I've noticed, not just in small children, but in sort of Russian learners of any age, is that this seems to me to be the kind of handwriting that you are taught at school, which is fine. But the way we write certain letters here has changed. So the R, which looks a little bit in this example here like the Russian ch sound, we don't really write it this way here anymore. And the A in Acton, of course, this isn't a capital A anymore either. So, you know, it's important, I think, to look at the way that writing is being taught in America and in the UK, but so these kind of R's that look like the ch or the capital A which looks like a small a, it's understandable, but if you make a spelling mistake as well as using this kind of R, it can be a problem as well. So you know, I wouldn't be focusing on trying to get people to write like they did in the 1800s there. All right, so spelling is a particular. So yes, from Elvira. So yes, Acton is Anne. You know, Kura is Charlotte, and Ellis is Emily. So they kept their initials, but they just changed their names in that way. So English is an unusual language because it's made up of different languages together. So there's sort of Latin influence, French, early German influence, and of course the Nordic influence coming down. I live here in the north of England, which is a sort of place is very old and was the sort of seat of Christian learning here in the Dark Ages. When the Vikings were invading and the Saxons before them. So we have a lot of unusual place names, which I've got down the list. So can you look at this list of names here, place names, and think to yourself how you would pronounce them? How would you pronounce them? If you can, or if you can be bothered, you could write down in phonemic script how you think that we say some of these things. So I'll just give you a few seconds to think about it. Aha, okay. All right, so the first one is boomer. So somebody there got it right. The second one is uffam. The third is Anik, so the L is silent. The next one is hoik, which is in the Scottish border. The second to last one, which looks very French and sophisticated, is camis. And the last one, I guess, is probably the easiest one because it's similar to Edinburgh, Bambra. Bambra. So, you know, if this is how we write things and say things, of course, it's going to be a problem in English, and it's much more difficult than Russian, I guess. In Russian, one of the only words that isn't spelt how you pronounce it, I guess, is пожалуйста, and mostly it follows the rules. Similarly, if you look at a language like Polish, it looks, very strange, but once you learn, okay, this is how you pronounce this letter in Polish, it's much easier to read. So, we have to think about spelling, and this comes across with a lot of kids. So here's an example from an 8-year-old from a diary page. And you can see, so there's a picture there of a black dog and some things on a table. So here's the language written there. So it says, Len had a new dog called Cass. He was a black Labrador. He is car sick. He is cute. Okay, so this is an example here from my diary from April 1995. So I won't tell you how old I was then in that way. But look at the problems that I've got here. Called, because there's an R in it. Black without the C and the K. Labrador. Okay, so I've just taken the word door, which obviously I knew there, and cute. Okay, spelt with a Q because the sound is the same. So these are the things which, these are the problems I had, and I think there might be some problems which your students might have as well. So how do we help students with problems in this area? Well, I think the main thing that we can do is to read, to get our students to read. The more that we see words, the more we recognize them. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, obviously we get the transliteration, which can be a problem as well. Where was that child from? That was me. It wasn't another child. It was me from 1995. But some ideas for helping students here. So magic E, how we go from big to bike, for example, that can be really helpful with students. There used to be a TV program here many years ago called Look and See, and they had a little cartoon section called Magic E, and you can find this if you look on YouTube. So they are quite old, but the songs are quite good. Okay, songs, rhymes, and riddles can often help. If you've read Matilda, there's a part in there where she teaches the children how to sing. The more difficult words in this way. And here's the nice idea: the dominoes. So make your own dominoes. And this person here has just used lolly sticks. Which of course you can buy, or you could just buy lots of lollies and eat them, which would be my preferred solution to getting all those lolly sticks. And joining things together. And of course, with the youngest children, you start with words which look and are written the same, and gradually you go on to things that look different but sound the same. All right, I'll just stay there for a minute. I also wanted to say, with spelling, there are students who just find it so much easier than others. But it's important that we don't sort of make students feel bad about having spelling problems, because this might be an indication of another issue. It could be an indication of dyslexia. Or something else. So when I was 8 and 9, when I was writing that example you saw before, I was actually 3 years behind in my reading and writing compared to other students, and I had lots of tests, and it was clear that my speaking and my understanding were fine, but in those 2 areas I was much further behind. And what we found in the end was that it was my eyes which were the problem. So I had 2 eyes which were of equal strength, and you were supposed to have one which is stronger. So I was reading the words and the lines all mixed up, and of course this happened with my writing as well. So when there is a problem with spelling, it could be another issue. And this leads us on to the next slide. Here, other writing issues. Okay, so who's this in the photo here? Does anybody know? I guess you know which character she is playing, but do you know who she is? Aha, no. So this is a very Russian. So this is Galina Vishnievskaya, the opera singer, as Tatiana. Of course. Thank you, Maria. Okay, you know, so somebody who's famous for writing. I thought. Okay, so problems that we have. So capital letters and punctuation. You know, you saw in my example there that I didn't have capital letters for the name, you know, and of course in English and Russian, sometimes we capitalize different things, for example, like nationalities, languages, that kind of thing. You know, so capital letters and punctuation, some solutions. Reading, draft, rough, and neat copy. So I think if you're getting students to do writing, it's really nice to let them do a rough copy, and then you can do some corrections, or you can go through some things on the board or on the computer, and they can self-correct and then come up with a neat version, which is much better. And in that way, they get to see their common mistakes. You know, here in the UK, we don't use red pens for this anymore. They decided it was too emotionally damaging for children. So, you know, I tend to use an orange pen, but they say to use kind of orange, green, pink, or purple for kind of correcting students' work in that way. Words running over 2 lines. Teach students how to use hyphens. You know, it's often the problem. Kids can't really judge the end, so they're writing a word, they're trying to squeeze it in, they can't, and it goes on to the next line. Teaching them to use a hyphen, I think, is really useful there, and it turns what could be a mistake into something which is more, you know, positive, I think, because a hyphen is a bit more sophisticated. Yeah, Vita, they're using green or blue. Yeah, green I like to use a lot. You know, green is the color that spies use. I always tell students that's a nice one. Sloping or wiggly lines. So of course, even adults sometimes when they write, or I notice when I write on the board, sometimes I start writing and it ends up a bit like this, but it doesn't look very nice. In that way. So, you know, use lined paper, or like we had at school, which is to have these these pieces of paper with very thick lines that you put underneath clear, white paper, and therefore you can see the lines through it in this way. So that really helps. Okay, and then I've got my sort of bonus activity, which is leading on to cursive. Oh, Anastasia, here you've got, that's really nice that you use different colors for different mistakes, and that also, even from a distance, students can see where their biggest problem is. Should they focus on the grammar, or should they focus on the spelling, or focus on logic? So I guess with small children, you might have a lot more orange there than with others. So cursive can be difficult, but if we use cursive, you know, writing is so much quicker, so much easier, and so much more enjoyable, I think, for learners. And when I was learning Russian, I really enjoyed it once I could use cursive. And when I was teaching beginners, you know, beginner native speaking teachers at one point, I refused to write in block capitals. I said, you know, I'd spent 4 years learning how to write cursively in this language. I'm not going to stop it just for you. You're going to just have to learn the alphabets in this way. I think Russian cursive is much more difficult because a lot of the letters change. But one of the problems is that we sometimes join letters a little bit differently in English than you do in Russian. So one really nice thing to do is to use spaghetti, obviously cooked spaghetti which has gone cold. And you can do, as you can see in this picture here, you can actually do the patterns and show how letters join together. And with smaller students, you know, it can be just 2 letters together, for example, L and E, or as we have here, S and P. And gradually we can do it with longer words. Of course, you could use string, thick string rather than thread. You could use noodles, You could use shoelaces, is a nice one to do it. Yeah, take things from your sewing kit. Unfortunately, my sewing kit consists of sort of, white and grey thread, which is very, 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 very thin, and some needles, which I wouldn't want to let children loose on, at least not on purpose. But spaghetti is quite nice. And of course, what you can do with the spaghetti is you can then glue it onto paper in this way, and then use it as part of your display or to take home, which I think is a very nice thing to do. So these things that I've been talking about today, really, they're related to making students write quicker and write more confidently, and to write something which looks better to them and to other students. And I think a lot of the problems that students of any age have with writing is that, if it doesn't look nice on the page, they feel ashamed. They don't want it to go up on the wall. And I knew this when I had problems. So what I would do I would kind of write very fancy letters and put lots of decorations and colors and extra dots on to disguise the fact that it was difficult for me to write a lot in this way. And so you will find that children will go to extraordinary lengths to avoid writing too much. So if we can help them with the aesthetics of their writing, then they'll be less defensive about writing in the first place, and therefore they should produce better writing, and you can focus more time later on the content. But there's no use, I think, focusing too much on content when it's not legible and students are unwilling or unable to produce something. And it's much better to do this earlier on when children are quite young. I think I was teaching last year a sort of KET group, very, very low level. They could do very, very little. And one boy, he just couldn't write. And he couldn't write in his own language even. So that was a real problem, and he really needed some of this stuff with motor skills, how to use a pen, how to use a pencil. And because he hadn't had it earlier on, it was much more difficult to learn it as an 11 or 12-year-old because you feel really stupid. When is it better to let them write in cursive? I think it depends a lot on when they're starting writing in their own language. And personally, when I've been in charge in schools, I've always said, we should use materials in the classroom which don't get students to write when they haven't started writing in their own language. If students are learning to write, in Russian and in English at the same time, it's a real problem. But if you're getting them to write English before they've written in Russian, it's going to be a really uphill struggle. So I would delay it until, they're kind of 7, 8 is the time. In terms of writing cursive, I think it's useful to do it quite early on, but you can limit it, I think, to the learner and to the group in some ways. If you've got students who are happy to do it, who want to do it and can do it quite well, then get them to write in cursive. But I would say I would expect them to be doing it before they're 10, really, even if they don't want to. I can write in cursive, but I can also write, in block letters, which I often do in the classroom. I don't write on the board in cursive. So I think if they've got a choice, then as they develop into teenagers, they can choose whether they use cursive or joined up writing. As you say, is cursive really necessary? I don't think it's necessary, but it's a lot faster and it looks nicer, I think. And also, of course, you probably need to be able to read cursive, and it's much more difficult to read cursive if you can't write it. Are there any books for training cursive writing at Cambridge editions? Kids love it. If you can find some of the older Cambridge books from about 2005, those editions, they have a lot more in than the sort of more modern editions. So yeah, I would dig up those old copies of books for kids, and you'll find there's a lot more about it there. Yeah, the native speakers I know hardly ever use cursive. Same for me, but I think it's the ability to be able to use cursive, and as I said, be able to read cursive more than you need to have the choice, I think, of being able to do it. I think it's the same with pronunciation. I don't expect people to pronounce things the way the Queen does, but I think they need to have all the sounds available to them, and then they can pick and choose. Yeah, and they will be much faster when they can do cursive. So I'm coming to the end here. So yeah, there's one more. Somebody's written the end in spaghetti there. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for me? Where could we download? I guess you know that this will be provided for everybody after the whole webinar is over. That's not a question for me. I guess that's a question for Julia. I guess I've got a few more minutes if anyone's got any questions for me. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Enjoy the final presentation. I hope there's going to be lots of interesting information for us about the new year from Cambridge and New Zealand. And goodbye.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks a lot for this wonderful presentation. Now we know that writing is not boring at all. This is I loved all these techniques, and I see that the teachers, the attendees, love them as well. Thanks a lot. So, dear friends, I introduce the next presenter, our secret speaker. We can have a short break if you need. We can wait for you here.
Yeah, or I was thinking also, Julia, that maybe I can totally understand people are a bit tired maybe of listening and sitting down. I don't know whether you can. You might be with other people where you live or where you're watching from, but take your headphones off and stand up and have a dance or whatever, get your body energies moving again or something if you've been sitting down for a long time.
I see some people say break for 5 minutes. So if that's okay, we can have this break, of course.
Yeah.
For 5 minutes.
I think that's fine. I mean, I'm in no hurry. I hope other people aren't either. So hello from Spain, but yeah, by all means, grab yourself a coffee, a drink, and have a little move around.
Okay, let's wait for 5 minutes, and I will upload the slides.
I make it like 13, so we'll start at 18, which will be only 3 minutes late anyway, compared to the official time. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's check the slides.
Yeah.
Can you see your presentation?
I can. Yeah, that's perfect.
What's about the arrows to change the slides? Are they available?
Not right now. Not right now. No.
There is a sign which is called presentation, the second one. Please click on it.
Right. Yes. Got it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right now. Yes, and I've got the pointer, and yeah, brilliant. I've been watching the presentations. Very good. I've made quite a few notes.
Thank you.
And I discovered that I'm from very near the previous presenter. Yeah, so we're both from the very northeast of the UK. So maybe one day we can meet over there.
Why not? Why not?
Exactly. It's a small world, really is.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And it's a lovely part of the world to visit. If you do you know it, Julia? Northumbria?
Yes, I do know, but unfortunately I've never been there. So maybe one day when the borders are open.
Yeah. Eileen is asking, can we download the presentations? I think you'll be sent some documents afterwards. I'm not going to make my whole presentation available, but I have prepared a handout which includes the main things so that you could use them in class.
Yes, we will share the materials, I think tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, because we need to convert the recording and upload it to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And we will send a follow-up newsletter to all the participants with materials, recording, handouts, and certificate of attendance.
Excellent. How are you feeling, Julia?
I'm happy with this day. Unfortunately, in the morning, there was a huge queue in this webinar room, and some participants could join a little bit later because so many people wanted to join the event. But I see these lovely comments in the chat box, and I see that the event is really good, very useful, and I'm happy that we can support teachers in Russia. And I see participants from other countries, so probably they saw our invitation on social media and decided to join. So we're extremely happy to share all our knowledge, expertise with all these people.
No, and as I say, I've really enjoyed all the sessions, all three, so very good. Yes, we're...
Some people from Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, my last work trip was Russia, actually. I saw I met you, didn't I, Julia? Yeah, in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and that was the last time I've actually been in the room with teachers, training teachers. Everything else has been webinars, which is great. It does mean you can connect with more people from further, apart. But yeah, I miss being in the room with the teachers, like the teachers miss their students. Yeah, so.
Yes, I do understand you. We do miss offline events a lot, but webinars are really good. We remove these borders. Today, we see people from different places. You are in Spain, Ian is in the UK, Anka is in Russia, Claire is in Germany at the moment. So this is great that we can meet together virtually, exchange ideas, share experience. This is lovely.
Definitely. No, I agree. And then you've got the recording. So if you can't, attend live, or there's something you missed, or you would like to listen to again, you've got that opportunity. It has got a lot of advantages. There's no doubt about it. So,
Victoria from Kamchatka. Wow.
Oh yeah, I don't know where Kamchatka is, but it sounds as though it would be very far from Northumbria.
Victoria, what time is it there? Kamchatka is so far from Moscow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What time was it? It flashed past.
11 p.m.
PM. Wow.
Yes. This is Russia, such a huge country.
Yes.
In Moscow, it's only 2.
Wow.
St. Petersburg, great. Khabarovsk is very far from Moscow too. Kyrgyzstan, Egypt. Hello, Egypt. Chelyabinsk. Fantastic. So many people from different places. And it's already 2:19.
Yes, I think we should start. Yeah, definitely. Right. Okay, so my session today was, as Julia says, I'm speaking to you the north of Spain right now. And my time, it's nearly 1:20 where I am. So my session's called Building Confidence, okay? And I'm going to be very much concentrating on checklists to create and build confidence and to be able to see steps in a process. Anna says she can't hear me. Can everybody else hear me? Yes, good. Okay. Yes, sometimes it's a question of logging out and logging back in. Sometimes that helps if you're having particular difficulties. Okay, so let's get going. So I've written a checklist for this session. I'm going to be looking at ways of guiding young learners to success. That could be success in a particular task, or it could be in learning English, or it could be in taking an exam and performing to the best of their ability. Checklists, I'm also going to be thinking about how we can use them to help learners see that they're making progress or how much progress they've made. I'm going to share some ready-made resources which are taken from a series called Fun Skills. And we're going to also create some resources together and some checklists together. So, I wanted to start with some news, and I think it's very exciting. I was involved in the development of the statements for this new development. Okay, so as you can see on the slide, as from September, so next week really, any student that takes pre-A1 starters, A1 movers or A2 flyers will, in addition to their certificate, which they've always got with the shields showing how well they've done, how strongly they've performed in each of the 3 papers, they'll also be receiving a statement of results. And so probably a lot of you are familiar with the statement of results, which our A2 key candidates receive. And so this will now be extended to include young learners. And as I said, I was involved in the piloting and the development of this, and I'm really glad that it's finally going live. Okay. So this is an example from the website, and I'll send the link in the handouts, and also you've got it there in the chat box as well. So students will get the statement of results, and it'll start off with saying, here are your strengths, always of course taking into consideration which level of the test they've done, and they'll get some can-do statements about things that they can do at this level. As I said, always in this case thinking about starters level. And then they'll get, here are some things you can work on. So where can I go next? So we're trying to give them some signposts of where they can go. So I just wanted to start off with this because for me it's a kind of a checklist, and it's a signpost for students for where they are and where they can go. Here's the one for movers. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time here. And what I've done, and again, I don't know whether you're seeing this, okay. Let me go back, right, okay. Right, that's it. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a summary table from the sample statements of results to show you what kind of things students are being signposted, where are you and where can you go next. So for example, if you look here at writing pre-A1 starters, students can write letters that they hear, for example in listening part 2, and they can spell very simple English words, for example in reading and writing part 5. When they're moving up to A1 movers, they're moving up to be able to write simple sentences to describe things, and they can write simple stories when they're moving up to A2 flyers. Okay, so this I will include in your handouts that you'll receive, and you can see a kind of can-do from the statement of results for these different levels. Okay. Oops. Right. Okay, so as I said, we're mainly going to concentrate on checklists today because I think they're extremely useful. So I've put there several reasons for why I think checklists can be useful for our learners. And we're going to be looking at some examples of checklists and how we can use them to do these different things that I've put on the slides. So let's get going. So providing a path to success. Providing a path to success. So again, here is the information that appears in the second and third parts of the starter's statement of results. So they can things that they can work on: practice saying longer sentences and understanding very simple conversations about objects and people, and other ways you can improve. So something very practical. Every day, think of a sentence about something or someone and write it down, or find a picture and write a sentence about it. So some advice of which direction to go, and then also a few tips about how you can carry that out, how you can do that. So I'm going to introduce you now to a character that I really like. And this character appears in all 6 levels of Fun Skills. So Fun Skills is a new course. It's just come out this year to prepare for the Young Learners Test. And I was involved in writing levels 3 and 5. And as we were writing, we were introduced ourselves to the characters that appear in these books. And some of the characters only appear in 2 levels, but we've got some key characters that appear in all of the 6 levels. And checklist body is one of the characters that we have in all the 6 levels. And I think, as I say, I find him a very useful character. And also there's a really nice story behind checklist body and very relevant for today's webinar. Because checklist body, like all the characters in Fun Skills, was designed by a student. And the student's name here is Maria, and she was 8 when she designed checklist body. And guess where she comes from? So thank you, Maria, and thank you for designing checklist body, because he's been a very useful addition to the books. Yes, Maria's from Russia. Okay, so checklist body appears not on every page, mainly in levels 3 and 5, 3 up to 6. We have checklist body, and we have some little checklists for students to check what they've done, okay, and very often what they've written, as in this case. So I put 4 examples on this slide to show that some of the checklists you could use with other writing tasks. So for example, if you're doing a writing task with sentences, you could use perhaps the top right-hand checklist. Have I written 3 sentences, or however many sentences you want them to write? If you've written sentences, it should have a capital letter at the start, and it should have a full stop at the end. Okay, so this could be, some of these could be used generally for writing, checking writing tasks. Have I done what I was asked to do? So the reasons that I showed on that slide just about 3 minutes ago, one of the reasons I mentioned was keeping learners on task. So in this case, the task, this checklist goes with an activity where students are producing language. They've read 3 sentences about somebody else's family, and they've seen pictures and they've seen photos. and then they're asked to write 3 sentences about their family and to make a poster. So once the students have the letter, yes. Oh, I'm missing a full stop at the end of my first sentence. I'll put my full stop and then I can tick that third box. Okay, so this is a very short checklist, but hopefully it will mean that the writing that we receive will have gone through this checklist and they'll have ticked these boxes, and so they will hopefully have completed the task successfully. Okay, so thinking about the checklist, okay, and again, I think this was something I would work through with students. Okay, so what does the checklist refer to? Does it refer to the sentences, the pictures, the photos, or the poster? It refers to the 3 sentences, doesn't it? I'm going to ask you to type your answers into the chat box now. How many capital letters should students write, and where should they write them? So how many capital letters should students write, and where should they write? Okay, most people are saying 3, okay. 3 at the start of sentences. If students are writing about their family, where else might they need to write a capital letter? Yes, Tatiana. If they're writing names, yeah, I've got my sister is Emily. Or they might say, I live in Moscow or St. Petersburg. Okay, so the name of a city. Perhaps, yes, that's a very good point, Valeria. If they're writing mum or dad as a name, then they could also write a capital letter there, okay? But minimum, there should be 3 capital letters to start each of the 3 sentences. Okay, another question. Where should the full stops go? And how many full stops should students write? Okay, 3 at the end of the sentences. Can you think of any other places where students might need to write a full stop, apart from at the end of a sentence? No, you can't? Okay, I'll give you some examples. For example, if they write a time and they write AM, we've just seen that, Natalie, thank you. If they write a time and they say, you know, 11 AM, or I start school at 8 AM, then they should use a full stop. If they're sharing their email or a website address, they again would need to use a full stop, etc. naturally. Okay, so get your students to think about and check on their checklist. I've got a capital letter at the start. I've got a capital letter with my names. I've got a full stop at each 3 full stops at the end of my sentences, and any others where they might need to use a full stop. Okay, and this for me would be maybe the first time I used this. I wouldn't maybe go into the details of the other full stops, but you could then move on. If you reuse the checklist, you can use it to develop further their writing and their knowledge about capital letters and full stops. Yeah, so we can develop this as we build confidence. Okay, another task from Fun Skills is to write about a fun, exciting trip. So what do you think would be or should be on the checklist for this task? Yeah, so what do you think would be on the checklist for this task? Yeah, is my story interesting? Past simple, yes, could be. Name the countries, answering the questions, definitely. How many answers? Yes, okay. Very good answers there, very good suggestions, okay. So this is the checklist which appears in Fun Skills. I wrote the name of my famous person, okay, because at the top right-hand corner, I've just covered it up. Yeah, oh no, sorry, by, okay, so on the line by, you have to write the name of your famous person. You answered all the questions, okay, so there should be something on each of those blue lines. And there should be sentences with because, okay, because we've got 2 why questions, in fact 3 questions, yeah, with why, okay. Would you like to go there again? Why or why not? Okay, and there logically we would write a sentence with because. Okay, so no because or yes because. Okay, so these are checklists that appear in Fun Skills. And when we were writing Fun Skills, we were asked to design and draw up these checklists. And I found it really a really good way for me to think about the steps involved in the task. Okay, so they can keep learners on task, they can feel in control because they can tick the boxes, and they can show them this is the path, this is the way to do this, and the path to success. Okay, read Annie's post, okay, and then you're going to write a post about your favorite job. Okay, so that is the example in this case. And students are given a post to complete themselves. So can you think of 4 points that you would add to the checklist, or you would put on the checklist? Okay, so we've got Annie's post as an example, and look at the blue lines. And what 4 things would you put on a checklist? Okay, so yes, did I write the job? Very important. So you could just have job, question mark. Okay, we've got because written already. So students in this time don't have to write because, but they do have to write. Yeah, they have to, Darina, they have to explain why they want to be a cook or a doctor or a nurse. Okay, so what about, my idea would be, you're doing a writing or a listening or a speaking activity. Get your students to think about the steps and to write their own checklists. They can do this individually, they can do it in groups or as a class, but it really gets them to think about what are the steps to successful completion of this task. Okay, so my suggestions, yeah. Write a job. I teach mainly in Spain. So in Spanish, you don't use an article. Yeah, so you just say, I want to be doctor. Yeah, so you'll get lots of students saying, I want to be doctor, or writing it. So in my case, here in Spain, I would very importantly add that asterisk with a or an. And then we want 2 phrases, okay? So we can't just have single words on the 2nd and 3rd blue lines. And the two phrases are reasons for wanting to be whatever you want to be. And then spelling is correct, and very important and very really related to Ian's webinar just before me, is the handwriting clear? Okay, because if it isn't, then they might have written a job, they might have written their reason, their spelling might be correct, but we can't understand it. Okay, so, and we can then perhaps show them some examples where the steps haven't been followed successfully, and get them to say, what's wrong? What's gone wrong? Which of the boxes can't we tick here? Okay, so has the student written a job? Yes. Has the student written a or an? No. Have they written two phrases? No. Is the spelling correct? I'm afraid not. The handwriting is clear. Okay, so we could tick the last box. Okay, but the others aren't, we can't tick them. So we could give the students these boxes. Handwriting clear, yes, but I can't tick the first three boxes. Can you make it better? Another character in Fun Skills is this character, and this is Sage. And Sage is a kind of checklist too. Sage gives the tips for the different activities and tasks. So in this case, we don't have a checklist in Fun Skills, but we've got Sage giving his tips. So in this case, we could give this to your partner, and your partner checks your post and says, is the handwriting clear? Yes. Is the spelling correct? Nurse is not correct. Do you understand the reasons? No, there's only one reason. Okay, so your students can peer check each other's work. Okay, another task. So, what do you think Lily's survey was about? So I'm Lily, I took a survey in my class. What was Lily's survey about? Yeah, it was about jobs, okay. And it could be, yeah, probably future jobs, future professions, okay, because obviously we can't ask our students what they do, okay. It could be, yeah, parents' jobs, Svetlana, I agree. It could be, which jobs do your parents do? And we could do a survey about that, okay, or where do they work, okay, would be another good one. Okay, so this is the bar chart. It shows the results of Lily's class survey, and we give them some questions to check that they understand the content. So how many children in Lily's class want to be a teacher? How many boxes, how many lozenges have we got colored there? So how many children in Lily's class want to be a teacher? Yeah, we've got 8, I think. I read it as, okay. So some questions to check students' comprehension of the information in the bar chart. Then students are going to carry out their own class survey. So they're going to ask their classmates, what do you want to be? And they're going to record their classmates' answers. And then they're going to draw a bar chart and write about their bar chart. Okay, so they're going to represent it in a bar chart, the information, and they're going to write a summary by completing these sentences. So again, we have a checklist in Fun Skills, and in this case, we're looking at the actual things that bar charts normally have. So bar charts normally have a title, there are normally numbers, and we need labels. Okay, so again, a quick task check. Have I got all of those things on my bar chart? If I haven't, I have to add them, or possibly even draw my bar chart again because I haven't followed the steps to create a bar chart. I've added some more, okay? So again, like I said before, with the full stops and the capital letters, then we can add, as students, perhaps create another bar chart, or perhaps we can go on. Did I use different colors? Did I add some icons? Okay, we've got icons for the jobs here. Is it well organized? So this bar chart is very well organized because we've got the doctor, which is the most popular job, on the left, and then the other jobs go down to film star, or go across to film star, which has just got one answer saying that that student wanted to be a film star. So it's very well organized. Okay, so take the initial checklist, or create the initial checklist, revisit it and extend it, okay, would be my advice. And thinking about, I've just taken some examples this time, not from Fun Skills, but from Power Up. And I've taken some different kinds of visual representation of information that we very often get in course books. And again, just think about checklists, think about what are the steps to completing these different activities, okay? And especially it could be for example, when you want to complete a crossword, okay, you're looking at very often things like across and down. You're looking at write letters in each box. Look at the pictures. Okay, so again, checking instructions, get your students to write the checklist for doing a crossword, and then you could get them to write the checklist for creating their own crossword as a follow-up. Okay, so very much what the successful completion of tasks, sorry, and what are the steps? This is another activity which I wanted to share with you, and I wanted to share with you. I like it because when I was writing this activity, I tried to put in a few extra twists to the activity. So, plan a fun holiday. Okay, look at question 1. Okay, and I'm going to give you an answer, one of my answers, and I want you to tell me whether I've followed the instructions. So just read number 1 and read the question. Where are you going? Okay, so let's imagine I give you my plan of my fun holiday. And in that box under 1, I've written St. Petersburg. Now, my name is Anne. Have I followed the instructions? So if I say my name is Anne, and I say I'd like to go back to St. Petersburg. No. What instruction haven't I followed? What should my word have? Anastasia, like you, my place should start with a letter A. So if I write Australia, then that would be okay. And then I'm going to do something there that starts with the first or with the last letter of my surname. So my surname is Robinson. So if I write night clubbing, am I on the right track? Okay, we've got some different opinions here, okay? So my surname is Robinson. So my first letter is R and my last letter is N. So if I write night clubbing, probably wouldn't write it because it's not my kind of thing, but it would be an acceptable answer. Okay. Question 3 has the same, you're going to eat something that has the same number of letters as your first name. So I would have to find something that I like to eat with 4 letters, something like rice. Or I couldn't write apple, for example. It would have to be something with 4 letters. And then we've got questions 4 and 5. They are not limited. Okay, but you could add an extra twist, okay, or your students can add an extra twist. For example, in 4, it could be the total number of letters cannot be more than 20, for example. Or for question 5, both your 2 people must be older than you or younger than you, or must be from your family, or must be from your class. Okay, so we can add another twist, or students can add another twist, perhaps for their partner or for another group. Okay, so adding another step to a planned activity can add an extra level of challenge, an extra bit of fun. And I've just discovered if I press the space bar, I can also move on the slides. So good. Okay, this is from the teacher's book. So tell students that there's an opportunity to use their imagination and be creative. Then share some of the most creative answers you've seen. Okay, so perhaps students could do this in groups. Okay, so who had the coolest idea of where to go? Which person would you like to go with could be another way of extending it or changing it. And I like the suggestion as well, which we have a lot of in the teachers' books, for fun skills. So they work in pairs instead of working individually. Each time they have to choose a word. So for example, for my place, I have to think of 2 that start with A, and then say to my partner, what do you think's best, Australia or Antarctica? And then their student can say, oh, I think Australia is better. Okay, I'll go to Australia. Okay, so we're adding a little bit more of a communicative element to the activity, and this is suggested in the teacher's book. Okay. So another thing that I wanted to look for at it now. This comes again from fun skills, but it's also a task. It's a task for A2 flyers, the speaking test, where they're given a story with 5 pictures that show the story, and they have to tell the story in the picture. So students are shown the story, they're shown the pictures, and they will hear the examiner say, these pictures tell a story. It's called Helicopter Fun at School. Just look at the pictures first. Okay, and what I wanted to, I don't know if any of you are examiners for young learners, but I wanted to ask you a question. what is it that a lot of candidates do at this point and they shouldn't do it? Okay, so they've just heard the examiner say, this story is called Helicopter Fun at School. Just look at the pictures first. And what do a lot of candidates do in the flyers test and they shouldn't do it? Exactly, Irina. They go straight in. They don't take time. They don't even look at the 5 pictures. They look at the first picture and they start telling the story. Okay, it's not a problem, okay? But if students know what they're doing, I think it gives them more confidence. And or as an examiner, you have to say, no, look at the pictures, okay? And really stress that they need to do that, okay? So I thought what we could do for this test task is to look at the steps involved in telling the story in the A2 flyers exam. Okay, so that's what they do. They immediately start telling the story. So our first step would be look at the 5 pictures and see the story. Yeah, go look at the story that's in the pictures. And you can see the story by maybe looking at who is or isn't in the pictures. Is there a change in place? Is there a change in activity? That will very often give you the story. Sometimes it's a problem, and by the end of the story, we get a solution. So look at the pictures. What's the story? What would your next 2 tips be on your checklist, or on your steps in this case, as I've created? So look at the 5 pictures. What's the story? What's your next tip? Okay, I'm going to, predict. Okay, yes, that's what they should be doing. They should be thinking about predicting what they're going to hear. Okay. So, right. So the examiner will then tell them, I don't know whether I've jumped, yes, sorry. The examiner then starts the story, yeah, by Wiggly is a helicopter pilot and she loves her job. Today, she's flying to Harry's school. Now you tell the story. Okay, so again, quite a lot of candidates repeat the story that they've just heard the examiner tell for the first picture. And my tip would be, don't tell the picture again. Continue the story. Start with the second picture. A good change from 2018 is we have the names of the people in the story and also the title of the story on the page. So make sure you use those names because that will help make your story clearer. Say something about each picture because that's one of the things really in the assessment criteria, both for the speaking and for the writing. Yeah, so make sure you say something about each of the 5 pictures and you should be fine if you can do that. Use either present continuous, yeah, waiting, getting out of the helicopter, or the past simple, yeah, so the children waited outside the school. Ying-Yui Li arrived in her helicopter. Okay, so you can choose, but obviously try and be consistent with what you do. And then I've given you the whole steps here. Talk about how the people are feeling, okay, especially our stronger candidates who can really show how much they know, yeah. And sometimes students find it difficult to describe what's happening in the picture. You can very often get around that by saying, you know, and now Ying-Yui Li is saying, I love my job. I can travel to lots of exciting places. And perhaps they can tell the story and obviously make it more interesting by including what the people are thinking or saying in the pictures. Okay, so keeping learners on task and helping them communicate the details of the picture story. Okay, so again, I've included this in your handouts that you'll be sent. Okay, and this could be, you could give it to students, and they can work through their story slowly, step by step, or you could give it to another student, and the other student can listen to their partner or somebody in their group, and they can tick off the steps. Did the student do all of these things? And if they didn't, perhaps their partner can give them feedback and suggestions of how can you improve. Tatiana, how many sentences should they say? There's no maximum or minimum, but I guess if they're going to be talking about pictures 2, 3, 4, 5, I would say minimum 4 sentences should be there. But if they can produce more, then definitely, you know, encourage them to say more sentences. Natalia, you're asking about the course book I'm taking the examples from. It's called Fun Skills. Okay, and I just wanted to mention at this point that related to the picture story, I wrote for Cambridge the Flyers Writing Skills booklet, and I broke down the steps to writing the story, the picture story, into these 8 steps, or 8 things to think about when you're planning and before you start writing, and then when you finished writing. And you can download this from the World of Fun website. And again, I'll send you the link to this website where you can download it if you haven't already got it. And I've also recently been extending the activities and the ideas on my webpage, which is at the bottom of this slide. So I've been extending the activities to include more staging and more ideas for practice and development. Okay, to finish, probably my final activity, okay, I wanted to share a story, and this time the story comes from Fun Skills home booklet. So the home booklets go alongside the Fun Skills books, and I was hoping to show you a video, but I think because of time, I'm wary of time, I'll mention that this is available as a video story. Okay, so how many steps can you find? Okay, so we've got Pixie. Pixie's going to make soup. And we've got a story about how he makes Tatiana. The character has been created by one of your students. Great, well, congratulations, Pixie. Okay, so Pixie makes soup. Okay, and as a reading activity, we could get students to read the text or listen and watch the video, because this is also available as a video story, and to find the steps to making the soup and eating the soup. So that's the video, okay, and I'm going to not use it. I would love to. So here on the slide, I've put the 6 steps that appear in the story in the recipe. So Pixie gets from the cupboard 6 carrots and 2 onions. He washes them and he cuts them up. Then he goes out to the garden and gets some tomatoes, potatoes and beans, washes them and cuts them up. He puts everything in a big pot, adds hot water and some green leaves, and he cooks it for 60 minutes. He puts it into some bowls and he and his mum eat the soup. So we've got 6 steps. And what happens if we change the order? So would this work? Would I make my soup? No, it won't, because you can't cook a soup until you've put the ingredients in the bowl, in the pot. You could, perhaps in this case, you certainly could, put the tomatoes, potatoes, and beans in before you put the carrots and onions, because there doesn't seem to be any longer cooking time for anything, but sometimes there is in a recipe. Okay, but in a recipe, you can't normally change very many, if any, of the steps. Okay, so reinforcing the importance of following all the steps. At the back of Fun Skills, something I really love, we've got these skills checklists for students to check how they're doing in the different language skills. They show how confident they feel by either coloring in the stars or circling sage, as we have here. And I wanted to mention another very useful checklist from Cambridge. So if your students are going to do Cambridge assessment, if they're going to do one of the tests, these are things that they should do either before they do the test or on the day of the test. So these kind of checklists are very, very important and useful. And I was going to suggest that you're just going to start, I think, your new school year. If you've got new students joining your groups, or you're going to start with a new group, then maybe writing a checklist and sharing it with parents. Yeah, what does their child need to bring to class? Do they need to bring pens and pencils, for example? Or maybe not. Would you suggest that they brought a bottle of water? And then you can give them tips on how they can show interest and encourage their students to learn English by telling them words that they've learnt. Teach their parents or their brother and sister a new word that they learnt in class. Or, hey mum, I learnt cucumber today. Cucumber, cucumber, cucumber. Okay, so why not draw up a list for your parents, for them to be able to share in their children's progress and learning. Another checklist, kindness checklist on the board. Another kind of checklist, a calendar. Again, I'll share the links to these, okay, which again can be nice activities for your students to do at home. And they can use the English suggestions here to do things with their family. And finally, to summarize, and I think we're running out of time, okay, I'd taken my reasons again, and I've given you a little task. So reasons for using checklists, they provide to success, yeah, a path. They get used to seeing and following steps. They keep them on task or track. Also is a task, because I've given you 3 lines. Learners feel in control. They show them where they went wrong. Help them communicate details. And very important, memory aids. There are 6 steps. I've only followed 5. What am I missing? Okay, I don't think we have time for questions, but on the next slide, I'm going to give you my email address, my website, my Twitter, my Facebook. I haven't put my Instagram because I'm not using it very much at present. I must start to use it more. So if you'd like to contact me and send me any questions, any comments on today's webinar, I hope you'll find everything you want to take away in the handouts that I'll be sending Julia. But if not, or if you have any doubts or questions, please contact me. Okay. And thank you all so much for attending. And I hope now you'll go off and be able to do some exercise, eat something, and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Anne.
Mm-hmm.
That was really great. It's an honor for us to see you here today. Thanks a lot. I think teachers are using these course books, so this is a great opportunity to listen to the author. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Participants, dear attendees, thank you very much for this day. Thank you for participation. As I said before, we will share the recording, the certificate of attendance, and some handouts in a couple of days. We need to convert the recording, and after it will be available to you. There will be a follow-up email. This is the end of the day. Thank you once again, and see you tomorrow, because tomorrow we are going to speak about teaching secondary. We have great presenters and interesting topics to discuss. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.